The following podcast is part of the MindBodySpirit.fm podcast network. Above the clouds of the Blue Ridge Mountains, there's a place where the noise fades and your breath comes easier. The Art of Living Retreat Center offers signature meditation, breathwork, and yoga retreats designed to calm the mind and renew the spirit. Choose a guided program, a self-paced R&R stay, or join inspiring guest teachers from around the world. Visit artoflivingretreatcenter.org and use code PODCAST for 20% off. Retreat to the mountain. Return to yourself.
Join us this September 8th to rediscover the lost spiritual history of the West. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Esoteric Quest, brought to you by the New Center of New York in the beautiful lakes and mountains of Ascona, Switzerland, and find the Mountain of Truth and the birth of the counterculture. Travel to the era of the writer Hermann Hesse, psychologist Carl Jung, and spiritual philosopher Rudolf Steiner with companions in a warm spirit of exploration. Learn more at esotericquest.org.
Wholeness means to me being in a state of joy.
Wholeness means feeling complete, owning my authentic gifts.
Wholeness is really connected. Everything is connected to everything.
Wholeness is where we have access to all parts of ourselves.
Okay, this is called the Page of Spikers.
Ooh, Page of Spikes. Or Spike. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Page of Spikes. That would make more sense. The Page of Spikes. So it's like a blue flame with white around it and then a spike, like a golden sword or something at the bottom. Will-o'-the-wisp. Appearing near the ground as a ball of light or a small flame, the will-o'-the-wisp draws curious wanderers from marked safe paths. It appears farther back than originally seemed as it is approached and can never be caught. Scottish folklore explains that these strange creatures as either playful spirits of the dead or mischievous fairies, leading you to either treasure or your doom. So luckily it was upright. So thirst for knowledge, curiosity, inbound message. Message inbound. If you're looking for a sign to start something new, the upright Page of Spikes is the message you're looking for. You are buzzing with passion for a new project or idea that you can't wait to start on. New ways of thinking will help you explore how to make these things come to fruition, and you're going to enjoy learning every step of the way. Follow your passion and steel yourself for any challenges, because although there may be speed bumps along the journey, your wheel will keep turning. Go for it.
I love it. That has everything to do with what we're talking about, the keep going. And, so we're doing the summer shorts about love on the spectrum, which I am so excited about. Like this show, this is one of those shows where you wish you could watch it for the first time again. Oh, you know what I mean? Like you're just like, I want to watch that for the first time. And I think I binged it. And then I started telling my husband, you've got to watch it with me. You've just got to watch it. And he was kind of having some stress. And within, one or two episodes, you could just feel the tension release from your body. It just makes you feel so good. And even he was just like so much lighter. And we went on a little walk after. It's like, it really is so good. And Love on the Spectrum is on Netflix. It's widely loved because it brings something rare to reality television. It's genuine, it's unfiltered, and it's got a lot of humanity, where a lot of those shows thrive on conflict or cynicism. But Love on the Spectrum is hopeful. But it doesn't sugarcoat things. It doesn't make everything okay. It includes moments of rejection, disappointment, and social struggle. And that balance makes it both heartwarming and grounded. And I feel like that's so true. To me, I was just watching it. I'm like, this is real life. Like, they show the struggle, they show the discomfort, and they sit in it for a minute, which is so different than any other reality TV for sure. Right.
Yeah. In a show, a lot of times reality shows, they're trying to make people look desirable or pretty and show all the conflict moments, obviously, but also there's like no problems. And every time I think of this, I just think of, and I can't think of her name, Danny.
Yeah.
When she had a disappointment, she was just like despair.
Yes.
And I just thought that is so real.
Right.
And all of us feel that, whether we could put a name to it or not.
Yeah.
And that was magical for me
Hmm.
that she could just be in it, like you said.
Right. Yeah, because
She
the
was
rest of
in it.
us are like, I'm fine. We're just like, hold it together kind of a thing. And it was
Yeah.
kind of funny because when we finished, it took us a couple days and we finished the whole season of season 3. So there's 3 seasons. There's also Love on the Spectrum Australia versions. There's a couple seasons
Hmm.
there, and that's where it actually originated, which Australia is really, really good at supporting their autistic population. Like they're one of the best countries in the world to really put a lot of emphasis and help to their
Yeah.
to the spectrum, citizens. And so we got done, it was like the last couple episodes because they're kind of fast gets done. And so the next show comes up, and there was a show on Netflix called Later Daters. And my husband just kind of clicked play, and we got through it was just such a contrast to
Oh,
Love on the Spectrum because it's the same thing as far as Love on the Spectrum is kind of like they set you up on blind dates. Like it's a dating kind of a show. And this Later
hmm.
Daters is people, in their 50s, 60s going back and dating again. And it was night and day,
Okay.
the ego. And like they were the first episode, there's these people, they're on a date and they're out there and they're a couple of the dates, they're like, "You're funny, huh?" Oh, and they're totally putting on this mask. And it was shocking as they're
Oh,
walking away. Yeah, I didn't like him. And it was like, you didn't? Because, they're like, yeah, let's get
oh,
together
yeah.
again. Let's get together again. And then it's like, no, I don't like him. And it was like so different because, in Love on the Spectrum, those are some of the most meaningful scenes is when they go on this date and they decide they're not a match, and they say it.
Yeah.
They say it
They say it to
right
their face.
out.
It is so brave,
So
so
brave.
brave,
So
and
brave.
so authentic. And we were talking about this when it first had come out, and we were just kind of, talking a little bit maybe about the psychology of it, or just
Yeah.
how we're so different. Is like I would rather preserve this the beauty of the moment,
Hmm.
but you were, and I think the thing we came to is like those people can't. It's so uncomfortable for them not to be authentic to
Yeah.
themselves that they just have to say the uncomfortable thing.
Yes.
Whether we would rather be the uncomfort on the inside
Yes.
and work on the authenticity later, they're like, no, I have to be authentic. I'm
Right.
sorry, I don't like you. That way, it's like, oh, but
Right.
also so amazing.
So amazing. And then at the same time, the person that received it was like, okay, like it wasn't a judgment of who they are. Like
Right.
they weren't trying to put on a mask, whether they needed to tell the other person or whether the other person needed to like them. It was like, this is just where we're at. This is just the truth, honestly, just the
Yeah.
truth. And how many times did you think watching that show, like, I totally get you, whoever character you're like, I understand you. I felt like so taught by it feels like very wise people that we need to pay more
Yes.
attention to, right? We need to ask some questions and be open to being taught because we have some things to learn.
Hmm.
Maybe our thoughts about about autism that it's somehow, you know, um, different than what it's supposed to be. Maybe that's something to think differently about. And I feel like this show is one of the ways it shows us that that's true. It's not a hardship. It's not
Yeah.
wrong. It's not wrong.
Hmm.
So I just want to talk about some of my favorite scenes. So and I mostly talk about season 3 because that's the newest one. But there's plenty of good seasons or scenes in all the seasons. But so there was a new character named Madison, which is so funny.
Oh.
She does not want to be called Maddie, but in my mind, I think of Maddie all the time. And then I'm like, no,
Do
don't
you?
say Maddie, say Madison. I don't know why. But I loved how she lived on her own and her house was just reflected exactly her little apartment
Oh,
reflected
yeah.
exactly who she was. And I just thought, isn't that interesting? What would there's just so many supposed tos. I haven't even given
Yeah.
myself the opportunity to say what I would want totally. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like, well, that's not supposed to be that way. It kind of comes first. That's supposed to. And I really admired the fact that that wasn't part of her, of her thought about decor. And I loved when she was being kind of coached about dating. And she said, she needed and wanted, her coach was so good at honoring what she needed and things like that. And she has a collection of dolls, and she's like, "Can I take some dolls on my date?"
Yeah.
And it's so funny because in my mind, it was like, "Oh no, how are they gonna, work this through?" And the
Yeah.
coach was like, "Sure. How many do you think you could just take 2 dolls?" Yeah. Okay, great. And it was like done. And then like in the next scene, she's popping them into her backpack. And I was like, well, hello. Of course she could do that. You know what I mean? But that whole
Yeah.
should was just right, kind of right there for me. But she talked about how, and I thought it was so good that she validated her, but she talked in that about this circle of safety. And, we're going to do something different. So we're going to be uncomfortable. And so she drew up a line and she's like, here's our comfort zone. This is where we feel good. This is where we feel calm. And she says, and then here's our meltdown where we're like way out of our comfort zone. We don't want to go there. But she's like, there's this middle place called growth. And I feel like we
Mm.
all could use that, right? We all could use that. Growth is in the uncomfortable zone. And
Yeah.
we don't need to go into total meltdown discomfort. We've got to find,
Hmm.
we can have a boundary and say, like, that's too
Right.
much for me. That's okay. And what do you need to feel better or to get, to help regulate? And if 2 dolls in your backpack, go for it. Like, that's the thing is
Hmm.
instead of thinking what should I have or what's the right answer, it's just what is really authentic to you. And I loved that scene. Do you have a
That
scene?
was a really good scene.
It
Well, with
was.
Madison specifically, um, first of all, she loves the Wiggles, which I do too. That when I taught preschool, we sang a lot of their songs, and so as I'm
Yes.
sitting like watching her dance to it, I'm like, yeah, I get you, girl, because I was
Yes. I loved it.
um, yeah, but when I taught kids when they were 3 years old. So they had just really come into the school system, and there were a lot of behaviors that we were dealing with. And so when Madison,
Mhm.
very beginning, talked about, I used to bite and I used to chew things and I had pica and you know, I was a runner, she said. And I remember kids just like that and thinking, I, I so hope that things are going to be okay.
Mm.
And seeing her down the road gave me
Mhm.
so much peace, thinking
Yeah.
like, it's going to work out. And then the other part too is when she talked about how she was so orally fixated. And then she had that, her friend's mom was like, hey, can I show you something that
Yes.
I do? And it was like, I make bracelets. And she, like, something clicked in her.
Yeah.
And it was like, it changed her life.
Right. It did.
And I just think that is one of those, I don't even know how to say if it's like spiritual, magical,
Yeah.
meant to be divine moments where
Yes.
something so simple as like just showing somebody something that you love created a life for someone. And I
Yes.
think we all have the opportunity to be on both sides of that story,
Mhm.
but I love hearing stories like that. It gives me so much hope. And yeah,
I loved it. I
just so
loved all her
cool.
bracelets. She had like these major, it was like Wonder Woman cuffs of bracelets, and it was darling it was just darling. Like you
Yeah.
just loved it. And I
Yeah.
think you're right. And I think, we can think about that for ourselves that it's like, I feel like we spend so much time trying to just stop the chewing or trying to stop the running around or trying to stop whatever that she was trying to do instead of looking
Hmm.
for something that makes us light up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like instead of like we gotta do this, we gotta do that, we shouldn't do that. I'm not supposed to do this. But what if we like did look around, was really intent on finding that thing that made us just shine? I think. I
Yeah.
think that's the answer because it really changed her, and
It did.
you could tell her. I mean, that had to have been glorious for her parents. I mean, it seemed like it was like a night
Seriously.
and day kind of a thing. I loved it. I
Me
also
too.
loved the scene of Connor's kiss.
Any of Connor's phrases, like, I need to make a book. Like,
Yes, a t-shirt. We should have t-shirts.
If Kappa feel I must, Kappa feel I shall.
Ah, yes. I mean,
Bonanza. Bonanza.
yes. Did you remember at the one scene when at the beginning, it was like one of the first episodes, and he was like, what if like I am standing here and then I walk off and then this music, Cats in the Cradle, starts playing and you see me walk off? And the next scene they did it. They like honored him. And it's so funny because Cats in the Cradle has nothing to do with that scene. It's about, a parent looking at what they missed with their child. They honored it. And I loved it. Or James at the beginning, he was like, so I'm going to say this, okay? And then he steps in the scene and then he comes in. Okay, I say it. I just love it. I would love to live in that world. And yet at the same time, you could tell that the parents had been through some things, there had been a long road. And so we obviously want to acknowledge that. And there's people that are in the middle of the hard, right? They're right in the middle of that wilderness space we talked about in May of loneliness and, just, deep thirst for something different. But, I
think it does give a lot of hope to parents that are in that messy middle of like, okay, it's not always going to be as hard, like thinking about Madison's mom, when she was running, thinking like, am I ever going to have her be safe? And
right. Right.
Like, that's amazing. And I think too, even like with Connor and Tanner both, their siblings were very involved in some of the training that they were doing. Like, I don't really know what the 17 levels were was it 17 for Connor? I'm real curious. Knows. That's a lot of levels.
No one knows. Yeah, they're like, kissing is level 1, kissing's level 1, or like hugging's level 1, kissing's level 2. They're like, hello. Yeah. And they even asked his brother, what's that level? I don't know. But they met him where he was at. They met him where he was at. So
yeah, I love that.
That's great. I love it too.
With so many probiotics out there, how do you choose one that truly supports your whole body wellness? At BiotiQuest, we believe your gut is the gateway to vibrant health. Our proprietary probiotic guilds work synergistically with your body, using scientifically selected strains you won't find anywhere else. Whether you're seeking better blood sugar balance, deeper sleep, immune resilience, or heart health, our formulas are crafted to support the whole you, physically, emotionally, and energetically. We're founded on microbiome science, backed by transparency, and inspired by nature. And with our 30-day money-back guarantee, you can experience the shift with confidence. Visit biotiquest.com and take the first step toward natural vitality from the inside out.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
So season 3 was extra special because, and spoiler alert, don't listen if you haven't seen it and want to. Because a lot of the characters found love. So it's been several seasons. Yeah, several seasons. And I was really surprised at myself and really kind of frustrated with myself because they would go on a date and I could feel myself just thinking, yeah, just pick that one. You know what I mean? Like they were kind of like, they liked who they liked. And it was like,
true.
And I could feel myself going, I learned, I think there's a part of me that's more like, well, you just got to get what you can take, like kind of a thing. You're like, I just got to have, if I don't have this person, then nobody, like you try and crop fit it into your.
You wanted to have connections so bad that you're like, yeah, just
get that one. And they were like, no, it wasn't a match. And this was so magical, season 3, because they found just the right ones.
No, they did.
So good.
Yeah. And you could never guess. Right, when they were going to go on a date, if it was going to catch or if it wasn't going to catch, and just that element of just rooting for them the whole time was just so fun, and to think that other people in their living rooms are rooting too.
Yes,
it's a little unifying. I'm not going to lie. Like talking to people about it and finding joy in it is really fun to talk about. It's not talking about the cat fight on Real Housewives,
right?
If that's your thing, that's okay.
Right. But
it's different. It feels different to me.
Yes, yeah, and I I loved that they knew what they wanted. They knew what they wanted,
Yep.
and they stuck to it until they got what they wanted, and they weren't unkind, I mean, in the beginning of season 3 with Madison and her first date, I mean, that
Oh,
is, I mean,
I felt like I was there with her. I
I
was
was
like,
just gonna say, I'm like, we've all been, I mean, that was an extreme story, but we've all been in that place on a date. We were like, I gotta go. I gotta go. I don't want
I
to be here.
know.
Because he was having such a hard time and she was still so nice. And then, at the end, I think it was great, but it's not a match. I think we're not a match, and just so good for
Yeah.
her. I think I would have just been like, bye. And, I mean, this is the sad part is we're in this stage, we're in this era of dating, where you have ghosting. You just stop talking to
Yeah.
them. And isn't that interesting that that's where we're at now, where it's like, they just ghost them because we don't want to feel the discomfort of saying, number one, of saying, I don't want to, we're not a match. And two, we don't want anybody doing that with us. And so we
Yeah.
hide it. We just ignore it. And I don't know if it gets ignored. I really don't. I feel like it comes out somewhere, that
I think you're right.
whenever you push something down, it comes out somewhere else. And so it's something, I don't know, I haven't been on the dating scene for a while, but that seems to be how how it works these days is there's not, and even my kids, it's like they have to go official, like right away, like, or not right
Mm,
away, but like they have to have an official, we are dating kind of point in their a relationship. And then but then they don't break up or they don't
mhm.
necessarily, and it depends on, if they're on the apps, but you just ghost them. You just stop. That's how you know you're not a thing anymore. I'm like, that is so disconnecting. I really feel like that's like putting poison in the water in some ways. Like it's just yucky. It makes it kind
Yeah.
of
I've been talking to my son about the dating life, and he's 19 and hasn't dated a whole lot. And he's like, I don't know that I'd be able to tell somebody I didn't want to go back out with them, so I would just keep going out with them. And I said, you would?
wow.
He's like, yeah, I think it would just, he and I are very similar. Like rejection it just hurts.
Hmm.
And the fear of the rejection probably is more scary than the actual rejection
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
But
Right.
I just thought, I hope you can get to a place that you can really speak up for yourself and like really get what you want out of a relationship. Because if you're always going to be at someone's mercy, how good of a relationship is that?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm like, I probably need to have him watch Love on the Spectrum with me.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is, I feel like it's both sides because it's a truth teller on one side, to say, hey, I don't think we're a match, but it's also the other side, you know, not taking that as personally as, I am completely not worthy of.
Unlovable.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so how
Hmm.
can it's like that's why I feel like we're doing this ghosting thing and so we're getting rid of one half of the equation, but the other, we're not, it's not both. So then you're just going to feel more and more rejected. If you say nothing, then you feel more and more rejected, or you feel, it just isn't going to, it's like it's just messy to me. It's just kind of messy. It's kind of too bad. But,
Yeah.
and maybe people are like that, but I hear that a lot that that's just kind of the way you
Yeah.
just ghost. That's how you know.
I think so.
That's how you know.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to go talk about some of the things that were so special about Love on the Spectrum. So some lessons that we can learn from Love on the Spectrum.
Okay.
So the first one is that love is universal, and so is the need for connection. At its heart, the show reveals that everyone, regardless of your neurotypical or your neurotype, wants to love and be loved. And
Hmm.
the desire for companionship, intimacy, and shared experience is deeply human and not limited by social norms or communication styles. That is just who we are. And I cannot tell you how happy I am that James found someone. He needed someone. I was so grateful. He had so much,
Jaw to the
rejection.
floor. I'm telling you, like jaw to the floor.
Yeah. And
Um,
we
yeah.
follow them on social media, and he's quite the feminist. I really like him. Hazel always showed me, she's like, check out what James said today. And it's just sweet. And they're still together and he does his
Oh,
own
I'm so
thing.
glad.
And, oh, it's so great. Okay. Another, thing was that communication can look many ways. We often associate romance with smooth talk, charm, and flirtation. But Love on the Spectrum reminds us that connection doesn't always come with perfect timing or poetic language. Sometimes a question asked plainly or a moment of quiet eye contact says more than 100 clever lines. Isn't that true?
Well, I think of that, and then I was just like laughing, thinking about Abby in the hot tub, being like, yeah, what about those pregnancy pills? Maybe I'll just stop taking them.
Right. They are
and David's like,
okay. And he just goes with her as she's like, breathe, 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 as they pretend to birth this child into the world. And they just meet each other. I mean, I just think, can you imagine if you lived in a world where you're just authenticity was just all you knew?
The most important thing. Yes. Oh gosh.
Like, there's so much to learn. Yeah, I love it. All right. Another thing is vulnerability is strength. The participants regularly take emotional risks, going on dates, trying to express affection, or dealing with rejection. Their courage to show up awkwardly, excitedly, sometimes nervously, is a powerful lesson and what it means to be brave enough to be seen. So good. And you feel it in your soul, don't you? Just feel it.
You feel it with Tanner when he's like going on his list. You know, he loves his list.
Yes.
And he's always like, but I don't like this. What do you like? And you can tell that there's a little bit of weight to some of those things. Like, I hope you don't like what I
Yes. You know? Right. And they know exactly what they like and what they don't like. And that's
to say it that fast.
Yeah.
I tried to mimic that, and I was like, I can't think of enough things I like that fast. So It's impressive.
It's impressive. We were walking the dog the other day, and there was this little Pomeranian, and I was like, one of them doesn't like Pomeranians. I think I remember that, but it's like very specific. Like they don't like, it's very specific what they like and what they don't like. And that's one of the cute parts of the show is when they kind of announce what they like and what they don't like. And the funny thing is when they say it, you're like, yeah, totally. You're right. Agreed, most of the time. All right. Another aspect of the show that's so great is empathy starts with listening without fixing. So Love on the Spectrum encourages viewers to slow down and listen, not to correct or advise, but to understand. It's a show about meeting people where they are rather than trying to change them. And I think that's what they, when they find the love the most, that's what they love, because they just listen to what the other person says, even if it's painfully slow for their date to get out the story or to wait for a minute, or, Madison's date where he was so scared, he was hutched in a corner. They just have this patience on that show that I just love.
What's Connor's girlfriend's name?
It just went out of my head.
Anyway.
Yeah.
She's always so like, it's okay.
So sweet.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
And just the perfect, and it just resets him and he's fine. Like
it does.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. When he goes to kiss her and he just can't do it, so he kisses her. I mean, so
wouldn't you love someone to be so Twitter-pated with you that they just couldn't make the move?
Right.
Like, wow.
I mean, and that's the point from before. It's like we think it's like the smooth talking and things, but it's in reality, it is that true authentic part that would just really speaks deeper into your soul. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing is support makes a huge difference. Many participants have friends, family, or coaches who support them, people who believe in them without pushing too hard. It shows how love grows more easily when we're nurtured in an environment of encouragement, not pressure. And I was really surprised by that too. Like I say in that example I gave, she's like, well, can I take some dolls with me on this? It was like, sure, rather than there wasn't like trying
that's not what we do.
Yeah, that's not what we do. It wasn't trying to make them be anybody who they weren't, and I just thought it was a good lesson. It was a really good lesson for me, because what does it hurt? Who is it going to bother for her to have her dolls, the thing that make her feel comfortable? Another one is being yourself is the best starting point. Perhaps the most consistent lesson is that authenticity is a magnet and is magnetic. The people who shine brightest on the show aren't the smoothest or most conventionally attractive. They're the ones who are the most unapologetically themselves. And I think that's so true, right? That
really is true. That, that's why all those characters, like, I want to be friends with them.
Yes.
It's like, I feel that desire in myself to want to show up authentically, but you get scared, that I'm going to get rejected. And to that point, those people on that show have talked about being rejected.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not for everyone.
Yeah.
But that being authentic really does bring the people that you want in your life to you. I think.
It's so true. when we finish, you sit there and you start looking up people on social media because you're just like, I just didn't want it to end. It's one of those things you just don't want it to end. And I start following the different ones, and I think it's Tyler Madison's guy who, when I saw,
DJ?
he was so cute, and he had like 1,500 followers, and so I started following him, and he had posted something, and I had just written like, I love it so much, like this was so good, because I was euphoric. I literally was euphoric at the end of that show. And then like the next day he like followed me, and I'm telling you, I felt like a major, like, and then I looked at, I think now he has like millions of followers. Like overnight, he's just,
wow.
But he was so sweet too, how it just is exactly what Madison needed. She talks a million miles an hour, and he just says, yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a little bit of me and my husband. I talk a lot about him. He just is the listener. So the last lesson I think we can learn from Love on the Spectrum is that neurodiversity is something to celebrate, not fix. And this is something that's kind of showing up here in the US, but the show reframes autism not as a deficit, but as a different lens through which to view the world. Participants aren't portrayed as needed to become normal. They are shown as deserving of love as they are. And this helps us to reframe how we see difference, any kind of difference, right? Not as a barrier, but as part of a richer, more inclusive human history. What if we had, don't we want to be all different, and we think that in a way. But this show just you just loved everyone, and the moms all have a new podcast and things like, there just is a lot of love. And it's just such a good show if you want a summertime, easy binge that puts you in a good mood. Love on the Spectrum.
Yeah. And I really liked Perry's girlfriend when she made a post, I think on social media, that said, I have more freedom to be more autistic, meaning more authentically my autistic self. And there's sometimes when I say something and I think that sounded like spectrum-y, like I really like facts. Sometimes I'll just like rail it,
Yeah, totally.
And at first I was like embarrassed, but I thought, actually, no, I think I want to be a little bit more like that. I think I want to be, there's so many amazing things that we're so worried about being different, but that we realize that that's the magic.
Totally. And the show just gives you courage a little bit to be more of yourself. So, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully you watch it or rewatch it.
Yeah, rewatch it.
Hey friend, it's Shalene.
And Michelle, and we're excited to tell you about our Wholeness Library membership.
It's a vast library of videos and holistic tutorials with experts around the world who teach everything from energy healing to Reiki to chakra work, mediumship, guided meditations, and more.
With our Wholeness Library membership at just $5.55 a month, you have access to all of that online, plus monthly live Zoom meetups and our app for learning and healing anywhere, anytime.
No pressure, just love. Try us with a free 7-day trial membership, and you can cancel anytime.
Come to thewholenessnetwork.com and enjoy everything from A to Zen. See you there.
Hi there. Are you listening to this podcast on your computer or tablet? Did you know you can take it with you? You can take any of our mind-body-spirit.fm shows with you on your phone and listen anytime, anywhere. On your commute, walking the dog, cleaning house, it's like found time. Just find your favorite podcast on Apple or Spotify, or download our free app on mindbodyspirit.fm and enjoy.
We spend a third of our lives sleeping and dreaming, yet most of us have no idea what goes on during that time. I'm Kelly Sullivan Walden, and as a dream expert and best-selling author, I'm here to empower you to mine the gold from your nighttime dreams. Join me on the Kelly Sullivan Walden Show, part of the mindbodyspirit.fm podcast network, available wherever you get your podcasts. Until we meet again, don't take your dreams lying down.